All right, hello and welcome to the summer series of interviews with Soulful Women. I am so happy that you are here. I am Krysti Turznik, international speaker, author, hypnotist, and spiritual mindset life coach, helping high achieving women who are burning the candle at both ends to stop feeling mentally drained, physically exhausted, and spiritually depleted to create a life that they don't need to escape from. So every day can feel like a day at the beach. Now, this is the place where you can discover how you want to be, how you want to feel, and to live your life with more meaning and more value. Now, this summer series will help you to take your life to the next level as leading experts and influencers share their top tips and secrets for living an inspired life with soul and such beauty and grace. And so with me today is Amanda Hinman. Now, Amanda is a functional medicine specialist and an integrative nutrition health coach. She used to feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and uncertain while struggling with a thyroid condition. So she has been in your shoes. Now, she understands what it is like to feel defeated at times, trying to maintain your health while trying to balance a career, a family, and a fulfilling marriage. Now she is supporting hundreds of women with her proven process to transform thyroid and hormone imbalances naturally so that you can go from feeling wired and tired to wildly successful in health, family, and careers. So welcome, Amanda. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Krysti, and welcome, ladies. I'm so glad to be sharing and just connecting with you today. I think this is going to be a really fun time and a great conversation. So I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And so today is such an important topic. It's all about getting back into balance because so many women were feeling off balance in many, many different ways. And it shows up mentally when we're feeling overwhelmed and pulled in too many directions. And it's also that physicality that we feel like we're just out of balance, and also spiritually too, when we feel like we're disconnected from our purpose. So can you share a little bit then about how we can discover the root of what might be going on with a physical imbalance when we experience that?
Yes, thank you, Krysti, for asking. Well, first of all, I want to say, I don't know about you, but I think many of us are feeling a little bit more sense of out of control or overwhelm or uncertainty, especially with what's happening in the world today. 2020 has been one of those years for the books, right? So in a challenging way for myself and for everyone I'm speaking with, all the women that I'm working with and everything, it's definitely even more important now than ever before, because I think kind of what you said, it's almost like the world is orchestrating itself and rearranging itself to call to action. Like, we can no longer just kind of get by doing the things the way perhaps we hadn't been able to in the past. It's almost like a heightened sense of overwhelm and uncertainty, and people are experiencing more chronic symptoms as it's relating to their health. And it really is an invitation, an opportunity for us to look a little bit deeper and to go within, not only spiritually and mentally, emotionally, but I also believe physically is one of the most impactful signs, because our body is always talking to us, and our hormones are literally the messenger molecules of the body. So when we stop to slow down, I love what you share, Krysti, about really just holding space and becoming observant to what's happening in your life, and notice what you're feeling, what your deepest desires are, and what you want to create, right? And I think one of the areas that we can lean into is to slow down and to pause and notice, what are those signs and those signals that our body is trying to show us. And that usually comes through in the form of some type of physical symptom. Whether it's something like having just consistent or persistent headaches or lightheadedness. For some people, it's those types of symptoms. For other people, it's like a rash or some type of breakout that we have on a skin, a skin area of our body. For other people, it's more, directly tied to the mental emotional piece, feeling just anxiety, overwhelm, quick to anger, irritability, or even depression. For some of us, it's GI related, right? We notice like, oh, I just feel like bloated and gassy and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For some women, it's things like having very irregular menstrual cycles or very heavy flow or, highly, uncomfortable symptoms right before a certain week of your cycle. So all of these things are very common. In fact, I feel like, unfortunately, that's one of the challenges is they're so common that we normalize them.
Yeah.
And so instead of listening and appreciating what our body is actually signaling to us, to have that opportunity to learn more and to become curious and to really start to understand on a deeper level what's happening, we just kind of, oh, it's just part of, the stage of life that I'm in. This is something that we all experience. So I think when we look at root cause, the first step I always like to say is look at do an honest assessment, right? Like even, and I can share if it's helpful, I can share just like a simple symptom questionnaire that I always have all of my clients work with first, because you have to look at what's actually happening on a day by day basis in order to understand and say, hey, where's the area of opportunity for improvement? How can I feel that much better and become that much more empowered in my life?
Yeah.
And then I think the second step is to recognize that everything is interconnected. We tend to, in traditional Western type of approach to medicine and allopathic care, while it's fantastic and absolutely fabulous for urgent, kind of chronic acute symptom management, it tends to very generally approach health, meaning like, if we have some rash on our back, we have, mood, anxiety, and overwhelm, and we have occasional headaches before our cycle, before a period, right? There are many times a doctor is not necessarily going to look at those collectively as a related set of circumstances. They're going to say, oh, here's a cream for your skin. Here's maybe, some magnesium if they're more holistic minded, or some over-the-counter Tylenol if maybe not as holistic minded for the headaches. And you know what? Mood swings kind of go part and parcel with, different changes in estrogen and progesterone levels. So maybe you can take a progesterone supplement if that's going to help. But they didn't necessarily look at any of the underlying detailed information to say, hey, you know what? This is actually a collection of circumstances that we can see. Maybe there's something where the receptors of the cells aren't really receiving information in and out in an effective way. So we need to kind of look between the layers and say, hey, you know what? There's actually a common theme here, and it's affecting the head, and it's affecting the skin, and it's affecting, our mood balance. But it's really one thing that's kind of at the root of all of this that's actually interconnected, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I love that you talk about like diving deep into like what is the underlying cause, because so often like we just look at that superficial layer, and it's more just treating the symptom as opposed to like, let's actually solve this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And like it is sometimes that physicality of what's going on. Sometimes it's the emotional thing that, like all of those things, we need to dive deeper into the underlying reason that is presenting itself, because like you said, it is a beautiful opportunity to explore and learn more about what's going on with us and what's our truth.
Yes, absolutely. I always feel like every health transformation is truly a gift. I mean, and trust me, I've had my own families and my own personal health transformation. It doesn't always feel like it in the moment when you're in the thick of the challenge and the hard stuff. And yet coming through what is actually an invitation to learn. It's an invitation to become curious and to learn about your body. And once you do, holy cow, I can't tell you, it happens over and over, how much more you appreciate the magnificence of your body, right? And appreciate all of the things that it is doing and signaling to you and showing you and really bringing you, having you, become present to in your life.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you had you said that you had a thyroid condition that you healed through, this deeper awareness. I too had like a heart condition that I healed through that deeper level of awareness. So an amazing connection between the mind and the body, like that the body, is that reflection of what's going on inside. So it's really wonderful to be able to take that opportunity to look within. So my question would be then, like, what do you think holds most women back then from getting the support?
Great question. And I think it's kind of, again, twofold, what I was talking about earlier. The first part is that we normalize, right? Because we tend to see, I mean, let's be honest, there's a new diet book every other week, it feels like, right? Whether it's almost like it's a perpetual state of the human condition, is that you're going to be struggling with weight, you're going to be struggling with, negative mood, you're going to be struggling with aches and pains as you just get older, and that's part of living. So we normalize and we assume just because it's common that it is inevitable. And I think that's a huge oversight, is to say, hey, well, it is common. Absolutely, it's common. You can look anywhere and find evidence of different symptoms. In fact, I think, the medical profession has a diagnostic book of over 14,000 diagnosable conditions. And the reality is those conditions are just simply a label and a name on a collection of symptoms. Yeah. Those diagnostic conditions, whether we're looking at fibromyalgia or Hashimoto's or congestive heart failure, any of those names, any diagnosis that you can see is not actually giving any insight or information about what was the root cause that led to that collection of symptoms and how can we best treat it moving forward. Like I said, it's just simply a collection of symptoms that are given a name. And so that shows you how pervasive it is to have a collection of symptoms in the human experience. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I think we don't intrinsically look at, hey, okay, this is my collection of symptoms maybe, or this is what I'm experiencing. I want to dig deeper to see what's behind that and what we can do to shift and move in a new direction. Sometimes it's a 2 millimeter distinction that can truly change the course of trajectory for your life experience in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, or let alone 10 years from where you are right now. Yeah. So I do think the normalizing is the first challenge to overcome. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage you and anyone you're in touch with, any women in this group, to really take a powerful stand for yourself. If you're not feeling at your best, don't assume that there's nothing you can do to change it. Rather look at, this is an opportunity, an invitation to say, what can I uncover here to create that 2 millimeter distinction? And then I said, like, the second thing is I think we look at things too disconjointed or too generally, right? I mean, I love the story of analogy of if you have an arm that's hurting, most often the approach is be like, oh, here, put on a cast, right? You have your arm hurts, put on a cast. Kind of like, oh, you're struggling in this, you're struggling with anxiety. Let's say, you know what? It's about, getting some more sleep and doing some meditations. And while that can be useful, if we don't look deeper and say, hey, literally what's happening with the neurotransmitter balance? What's happening internally with the body too, that as many meditations as you want, that can get you so far, but it may not be able to really uncover what's happening on a biochemical level in the body, right? That's going to make it easier for you to shift the neurotransmitter balance. If we don't get a deeper level of information, then we're just going to be kind of stuck with a marginal symptom improvement, but not ever truly changing that trajectory of the underlying pathway that we're moving on. Yeah. So I love that analogy of the arm. Like, a cast may be great if you do in fact have a broken arm, but if you have a bug bite that's become infected, a cast isn't really going to help you. You need to look at more information in order to know what's the best course of action moving forward.
Yeah. And so I would think too, some women are dealing with some shame, and some involvement as far as like, they're dealing with these things and maybe not knowing if they're normal or if they're abnormal. And, it brings up a lot of fear. Where do you feel like the best place to start would be? Like, if you think that, there's something that's a little bit off with yourself, but you don't know, like, if it's a mental thing that you need to be, looking into, if it's a hormonal thing, like where do you start with that?
Yeah, great question, Krysti. And that's so true. I love that you verbalize that, because I do think there's a lot of shame and a lot of fear. We think that we should be able to figure it out and we should be able to manage it on our own, right? And again, I go back to, it's not about a one woman show. Really, what makes the experience, I think, for everyone to thrive is our collaboration and is our coming together to learn from each other's expertise and experiences and share stories and share successes and failures, right? Sharing what doesn't work and what does work. And also leaning into different resources, right? People like yourself, you have a great skill set and a great value to add for people's ability to kind of take that step and to really clarify what is their desires and how they can start to tap into that on a deeper level. I look at it as kind of like, what's your council of support, right? What's your council of mental, emotional support? Who do you go to for that spiritual deepening and support? Who do you have in your corner to look at the physiological component and the physical side? So sometimes for most people, it's a primary care physician, and that's a great first step. What I recommend is to seek out additional clarity. I really strongly recommend working with somebody who's looking at the interconnection in your body, as well as the, like I said, kind of that deeper root cause rather than just simply the symptom management. So I always suggest for people, if they don't have somebody, if it's like, hey, I have a general practitioner that I work with once a year and I kind of go for my annual checkups, or I have some people are like, oh, I've worked with a nutritionist on a weight loss plan. So that's great. And that's a good step. But it's really about, hey, get somebody in your corner that can help you do an assessment to look at, some physical symptom questionnaires, to look at some lab work information about your hormones or about your, other metabolic panel, and to really see how is your body functioning. Because once you become informed, you can then have information that actually removes that shame and guilt. I can't tell you how many women felt terrible for years before they started working with me. And then they had testing done and they thought, oh my goodness, like there's actually a completely logical explanation of why my body is the way it is, or why I can't lose this weight, because my hormones are biochemically making it impossible. So it's not about my willpower. Like if my willpower can be as strong as I want it to be, but if my hormones are functioning in this way where insulin is just the primary driver, I'm not going to be able to lose weight until I get some help to shift that, right? So I think actually getting more information and taking that step to partner with somebody can help remove that shame and that fear.
Yeah. Yeah. And the things that really stood out for me with what you shared was getting more information so you have the ability to make better choices. It's all about just informing yourself so you can reclaim your power and do the thing that feels best for you. And also about surrounding yourself with the people that are going to help to make you so you can step into that better version of yourself. And it's the people that are helping us, health-wise, that's fantastic. We also need to do the same thing with just the people in our general day life, everyday life, who are those positive people that are going to be uplifting us and supporting us, just as these practitioners are wanting the best for us. Really great insight and such great advice. So I really appreciate you sharing all of these simple steps that people can do to help up-level their lives and to find greater balance. And if someone wants to learn a little bit more about you and what you do and how you can help support them, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. I would definitely invite you to join my Facebook group. It's Natural Thyroid and Hormone Solutions. It's absolutely free group that we just share, kind of like what you do, Krysti, share some training and some great resources and opportunities to connect with other women. It's really just a pool of resources and avenues to learn more.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And we will post those links in the comments below, along with, you had referenced that that checklist or that quiz.
Yeah, I'll definitely share the symptom questionnaire.
Yeah.
It's a great starting place.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. So thank you again for joining us. And then just as a reminder to always live every day like it's a day at the beach. Take care, and we'll be talking soon. Turn off.